to talk about, in particular, what we have seen with eggs and egg prices. We are joined now by Jesse Laflamme. He is Pete and Gerry's CEO. He's joining us from Weston, Massachusetts. Jesse, it's good to see you. So what have you guys seen in terms of the prices that you're pushing out to grocery stores and other retail outlets during all of this?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's really unprecedented time that's happening for us right now in our category as a whole. And frankly, it's a tale of two worlds. So we really focus our business on the organic and free-range humane specialty side of the egg category as opposed to commodity caged eggs. And we've seen a huge demand growth. And we really don't price on a supply and demand market. We price on costing. So our cost hasn't changed, and our price to retailers and customers hasn't changed. But the other side of the category is the caged commodity side, and that's been incredibly volatile. In fact, in March, prices for wholesale eggs to the farmers, the factory farms, bounced from less than $1 to $3 a dozen, and now it's back to less than $1 a dozen. So consumers may have seen that along with shortages.
Hey, it's Adam Shapiro. Thanks for being here. It's interesting because I've been watching egg prices, and I, go back and forth between organic and non-organic. But in regards to supply and demand, there was a concern there wouldn't be enough, and it seems as if, whether it's organic or not, the industry rose to the occasion. Is that sustainable?
Yeah, well, again, similar to what's happening with the dairy industry, for example, because so much of the restaurant food service business has disappeared overnight. There's really this crazy imbalance that's happening. So there are way too many eggs out there right now, believe it or not. And our system is so specialized that a number of these large farms are dedicated solely to producing pasteurized liquid egg or eggs for food service, and their market disappeared overnight. Whereas those that were doing retail eggs in cartons had a huge spike, lost their restaurant business. So believe it or not, there's actually way too many eggs out there, even though the retail demand is much higher. So commodity caged egg producers are really hurting on prices. Not going to go away for a while.
And as you operate this small business and thinking about the pulse of the consumer, as we enter this recessionary period, perhaps depressed, prolonged period, are you afraid that perhaps people will not care about the organic label? They'll really just go for the price? Even customers in the past who had prioritized kind of investing their extra cents into getting an organic product?
It's a really great question, very much on our mind, and I'm sure our competitors and in other categories. If you're selling a premium product, premium food in particular, what's going to happen when this is all over? And no one knows when it's going to be all over. So we are concerned that there's a recession or even depression, like economic conditions, that's going to hurt a lot of our customers. We worry about that. So focused on trying to keep our costs as low as possible. The flip side of that, of course, is there is a recession. What's been seen in the past is that people tend to eat out less, but spend more on better groceries at home. So that could sort of be an offsetting factor, but it's so uncertain at this point. We just don't know.
I think that's been the approach in my household and the grocery bill. Jesse, I want to ask you about safety as well, because obviously outbreaks at some of the chicken processing plants have been a big issue. We have seen it less on the egg side. I know Sanderson Farms, for example, one of the big commodity producers that you refer to, has not had the same sort of issue. Can you talk us through sort of the process of what does egg processing look like and what are the safety protocols around it?
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it is less labor intensive typically than meat processing. So that's certainly an advantage to us. And our model in particular, which is different than the commodity producers, is to work with a number of disparate family farms. So already we're spreading out, the potential for cross-contamination between farmer workers and individuals. But egg packaging, it is labor intensive. So we're taking steps to do plexiglass barriers between workers, getting masks for everybody that we can. And of course, if anybody's ill, identifying as early as possible. So we've invested in infrared cameras that Amazon uses to check people's temperatures and so forth. But it's always a risk, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. It's when you bring a large group of people together in a building, it's sort of inevitable. But I think it's being proactive that's really making the difference for us.
And have you had any workers who have become ill or who have been diagnosed with COVID?
Yeah, actually, in one of our egg packaging plants, we had a couple workers, and we were able to identify really early and get them out and get them away from the others and healthy. Fortunately, everyone returned and it wasn't a major health issue, but certainly preventing it from spreading throughout the facility was our greatest concern. So we've spent a lot kind of restructuring our systems to make sure and how we produce eggs and how we move people around, how we have people on break and lunch, so forth, just trying to keep them isolated and as safe as possible.
Well, it sounds like you were successful, thankfully. Jesse Laflamme is Pete and Gerry's CEO. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you.
Sure, good to see you too.